Okay, so my presentation is on child abuse and neglect. I'm going to start you guys off with an activity. Basically, I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you guys to identify the type of abuse or neglect that it is, and if you think it should be reported.
Oops, sorry. No, you're fine.
Okay, so while you guys are finishing reading your scenarios and thinking up different what types of child abuse or neglect it might be, I'm going to give you guys a scenario right now. So John comes to school with unexplainable bruises or welts, unexplained burns, unexplained fractures, or unexplained lacerations or abrasions. So any of these, and he also tends to behave, he's wary of adults, he is apprehensive when other children cry, he's aggressive or he's really withdrawn, he's frightened by parents, he's afraid to go home, and he's telling some people, or he may be telling some people that he's being injured by his parents. So this is an example of physical abuse, and should we report it? Yes. Does any table want to go first on their scenario? You guys can just read it and then say, or read just a few of the bullets that's happening. You guys want to go first? Okay. Sure.
Lindsay comes to school with difficulty walking or sitting, torn skin or bloody underclothing, finger itching in the genital area, bruises or bleeding in external genitalia, vaginal or anal area, and venereal disease.
And she tends to behave in the following ways: unwillingness to change for gym, withdrawal, fantasy, or infantile mannerisms, bizarre, sophisticated, or unusual sexual behavior or knowledge, poor peer relationships, delinquent or run away from home, and reports sexual assault by caretaker.
So what kind of child abuse or neglect do you think that is?
We think it's pretty, yes,
Sexual.
obviously sexual abuse.
Yeah, a lot of sexual stuff going on there. Would you report it? Yeah. Okay. How about the back table?
So we have a boy, Caleb, and he comes to school with a speech disorder, failure to thrive. He tends to have the following, or he tends to behave in the following ways: sucking, rocking, biting, and other habit disorders. Extremely compliant / passive or aggressive or / demanding. Lagging in mental and emotional health. Attempted suicide.
So what kind of abuse or neglect do you think that is?
We were thinking maybe neglect or verbal abuse.
Verbal. So it's actually what's classified as emotional abuse. So like his behavior, his rocking, all that kind of stuff, that's him trying to comfort himself. So that's what a lot of that is. So that's another form. Would you report that, do you think? Yeah, you'd report those behaviors. Okay. And then the front table.
So ours is Sophia. Sophia comes to school with consistent hunger, poor hygiene, and inappropriate dress, consistent lack of supervision that we've seen or heard about, unattended physical problems or medical needs, abandonment. She tends to behave in the following ways: begging and stealing food, extended stays at school, rides early, leaves late, constant fatigue, listlessness, falls asleep in class, alcohol or drug abuse, delinquency, and stating that there is no caretaker.
Okay. What kind of child abuse or neglect do you think that is?
Physical. Neglect.
Physical, yeah, neglect in itself. She's not being taken care of properly. That is correct. And would you report this? Yeah, so that was just a beginning activity that I wanted to get you guys kind of in the mindset of things that you would report. So the definition of child abuse or neglect, there's not really a clear-cut definition. There's kind of just these fine lines that are vaguely described. So the first one, by the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse, it defines it as a non-accidental injury or pattern of injuries to a child for which there is no reasonable explanation. So it wouldn't be you have a football player who injures himself Friday night at a football game, comes to school Monday, Tuesday, and has a broken arm. You know, he's taken off the field during the game. Wouldn't necessarily think that that would be reasonable or unreasonable injury if you saw him carted off the field at the football game. So it needs to be something reasonable that's making you suspect that something's going on. And then federal and state laws define it as physical or mental injury, sexual abuse or exploitation, negligent treatment or maltreatment of a child under the age of 18, or the age specified by the child protection law of the state in question by a person who is responsible for the child's welfare under circumstances which indicate that the child's health or welfare is harmed or threatened thereby. So basically, someone in charge of them, a caretaker, is injuring them. It just gives vague mental, physical injury, or sexual abuse, all those types of things we covered. So Washington Law, Chapter 2644020, it's an RCW. It's basically the exact same definition that I just read you guys. Washington Law just states that we have teachers, we have to have reasonable cause for reporting something. So if you witness or you hear something, you see physical bruises, marks, anything like that, that is reasonable. You have a reasonable case to report something. And then reporting requirements. So states require that you have to have, there needs to be certainty that abuse is taking place before it's filed. Now this certainty is defined just as reason to believe or reasonable cause to believe or suspect. So you just have to have something to base your opinion on. Like I said, you wouldn't report necessarily the high schooler or the football player who got hurt on the field Friday, came to class the next day with a broken arm. You wouldn't necessarily have justification for that unless you might have had reason to believe that something later on was going, or he hurt his leg in the football game and comes to school with a broken arm. That may be slightly questionable. And then for when you're reporting, you have to have an oral report. It has to be reported in a timely manner, and then there needs to be a detailed written report. So there's different steps you need to do, and it does need to, happen pretty quickly. You don't want to hear something and be like, oh, I'll talk to someone about it next week, because that's just putting the child in more danger if abuse or neglect is actually happening. Failure to report is a misdemeanor in most states. You can get fined or be sent to jail for not reporting it. And then in protecting teachers, so teachers are reporting child abuse or neglect in good faith. So if you have reason to believe that it's going on and you report it and it's not, and a parent tries to sue you, you're not liable. You're just trying to protect the child itself. So even if it's not there, good it's not there, first off, and second off, it's a good thing that you report it even if it's not there. So your guys' next activity is just a puzzle on the reporting procedures. You guys just want to fix those up. Perfect. So it looks like each table's got it. So like I said, to report it, you do an oral report. So that would be, for example, you could tell your administrator, school counselor, you need to tell someone so that it's not just something that you're aware of or suspecting. You're going to want to do it in a timely manner, 24 to 72 hours, and then have your detailed written